You're listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast, where we talk about growing up with narcissistic moms, how it shapes your nervous system, your relationships, and your sense of self, and how to heal without shame. I'm your host, Noelani Pearl Hernandez.
This episode is sponsored by the Happy Cannabis, body products designed to help you on your healing journey by supporting your nervous system with every application.
Welcome back to Beyond Mommy Dearest. Today I'm joined by JinJara Mitchell for a deeply honest conversation about surviving childhood trauma, untangling family dynamics, and what real healing looks like when you begin to question the stories that you were taught about yourself. If you've ever wondered whether what happened to you was really that bad, this conversation is for you. JinJara, thank you so much for being with me today. I am so happy that you're able to be here. And, for listeners that may not know your story, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and some of the experiences that shaped you?
Hi, Noelani. Thank you so much for having me. I love the name of your podcast. It drew me in instantly.
Oh, good.
I so relate to that name. Yes, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate when I say that when we come from a background where we relate to this podcast, there's often so much within our childhoods that it's not like easy to sum up necessarily, but I guess the quickest summary would be my life when I was a child was very presented in a certain way, and my mom was very good at parading around the perfect image, and when you looked behind the curtain, things were very different, and I learned how to perform and put on the face and the mask and be exactly who my mom wanted me to be and say exactly what she wanted me to say to keep up the performance, because there were severe consequences if I didn't. And I also, at that time, I recently learned about like Stockholm syndrome. And I do believe that as a child, I definitely had a form of that where I just really loved the person who was abusive towards me. And I learned to idolize her and believe that she was amazing and perfect. And I think that's coping with what was really happening and making sense of it.
Well, because it's a hard thing. You think as caretakers, and now me as a mother, I think, how could my mom ever have done that? Where it's a little bit easier to like bite when you talk about like maybe a significant other or a spouse being a narcissist, which I don't think is okay either. But like people accept that, right? And I know that you've probably experienced this when I talk about my mom, the first response is, "Oh, but she seems so nice." Or, "No, that can't be true." I'm like, why would I make any of this up?
Yep.
Like that's the first thing. And then I think the other thing is we had Doug Bugle on, and he was part of the Narcissist Playbook, that the film that's coming out. And he described his narcissistic romantic relationship and everything that she did, and then his reactions are the way he felt on the inside, and they were parallel to what I was experiencing with my mom. And I think that is, you say, the Stockholm syndrome. It's when it's someone you love, especially it's a caretaker, and you need them in order to survive. Of course that's going to happen. And so that part of it, that I have that shame that's there, that's a tough thing. And I think that's a thing that really stays with a lot of survivors. You were talking about your mom and how from the outside it looked like everything was okay. There's a lot of performative stuff going on. And you've shared in your social media that your family appeared, privileged from the outside, but things were really different behind those closed doors. How do you think that disconnect affected you as a child?
I mean, I think it affected me in a lot of different ways. When I was a child, I really wished with all my might that I had nothing material, and I honestly would have traded everything that my family had material wise for a loving home.
Mhm.
Like when I would go to my friends' houses and they had, like just an, nothing. Like my house was like, we had gates and we had like cars and we had, I had a nanny, and it was like, it
Mhm.
was a very exuberant home.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And when I
Mhm.
would go to my friends' houses that had like very, like, not simple homes, I'm not trying to say
But
that, but
modest. Yeah, but
a
modest
modest
homes.
house,
Yeah.
and it was like, their parents were not screaming and the moms were just being nice, and they were, there was like this love. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want this. Like, this is
Mhm.
so much
Mhm.
better. And I would have traded that all in a heartbeat. And my friends would always go, oh, you're so lucky. Like, oh, I want this. My friends would come over and they'd want to try on my mom's clothes, or they'd want to,
Yeah. Yeah.
they'd want to, I don't know, walk around with my mom's purses, like walk around and I'd be,
Yeah.
and they thought that that was like luck or beautiful things, and they wanted all those things, and I was like, I just want to be loved. I just want to have like a parent who's not screaming at me all the time. I just want
Right.
to feel a sense of safety. And so in a weird way, it was like the ultimate form of gaslighting, because
Mhm.
it's like this idea of like, oh, like, in magazines and books and movies, people think, oh, what we should aspire to is material goods, and that's happiness, and wealth and privilege is like what we all should want. But when you
Mhm.
already also have like stability, then I get why that could be something you'd also want in
Mhm.
tandem with that. But if you don't have stability and you don't have love and you don't, and it's all just like stuff, then
Right.
it really doesn't mean anything if
Yeah. Yeah.
really young. I mean,
Yeah.
in my case, what's very interesting is we ended up losing everything by the time I was 20. Like, all of our homes were foreclosed on. My mom
Mhm.
lost it all, so I did get
Mhm.
to I got to taste it,
Right.
and it was like, okay, great, now I don't have love and I don't have money, and this
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Right.
But
Well, and I think that's really something that is what I've experienced when I've talked to people, that lack of like money control
mhm.
is very common with narcissists. There's like common themes that come up. Now, we can't say that if you're a narcissist, that's going to happen, but there's things that are very common, like hoarding is really common, or, the mismanagement of money. It's more of when people share with me, oh, my mom was like this. She was yelling, she was controlling. And they say, oh, and she had money problems. Oh, and she, hoarding. Then I'm like, okay, she sounds like she could be a little narky. Let's continue on with the conversation. And with you, it sounds like you had the experience of seeing very normal stuff with your friends. And then that mismatch of having your mom being a freaking psychopath, right? And that is difficult. And for some people, they have like the other parent to be there and to have, but your father, you lost your father at a really young age. So how do you think that impacted kind of the timing or what was going on with your mom? Did your mom escalate after your father was gone? Like, what happened during that time?
That is such an interesting question. So thank you for asking it. So
Yeah.
actually, when my dad passed, my mom went on. So when my dad was alive, our lifestyle was a little more modest.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something people actually would say about my dad was, you could tell Fred, was my dad's name, is a millionaire by his shoes, because he didn't wear flashy shoes. He was actually a
Yeah.
very modest guy.
Yeah.
And, I remember when I was a kid, if I wanted a toy or I wanted something, my dad was always like, oh, that costs a fortune. Like,
Hmm.
wasn't the type of dude who was out buying, Rolexes and a
Right.
flashy guy. And I
Hmm.
think he kept my mom as well, he didn't want her overspending. Like, he kind of controlled the finances. And
Yep.
as soon as he passed, actually, one of the first things my mom did was go buy a Jaguar, which she kept in the garage. So,
Right.
my mom got access to a lot of money when he passed, and yeah, the spending, that's part of why we lost everything, is she just, the spending went out of control. And
Hmm.
um and how it impacted me not having a father to turn to. Yeah, it was pretty extreme because I have met people who also have, very difficult mothers, and their father, like, I think it's difficult for them because they see their father enable the mom, and I think that's a whole thing that can be really difficult to experience as well. But in my case, it was just like, no one's going to save us. And, my mom would threaten to leave. She would threaten to kill herself. She would threaten to do all of these things when we weren't behaving how she wanted us to. And there was just no sanity. And, my mom did remarry. And one of the first phone calls I had with this guy, at this point he was a stranger, was I had to call him dad. And my dad had only died a couple years before, and I'd never met this guy.
Oh gosh.
My mom's like, you have to call him dad. And I'm like, oh, my mom always used to say, your dad would be rolling around in his grave right now if he knew you were doing this or doing that. That's just like a phrase she would say. And I remember thinking to myself, my dad would be rolling in his grave right now knowing I have to call a stranger dad. But then what was so strange is my mom had this way of finding men who just had no backbone. And they just did whatever she wanted. And I know this might sound insane, but it was almost like she had a spell on them. Like, it was like paranormal. And this that she found, who became my stepdad, he adopted me. He saw the insanity of the household, but he too fell under he just didn't stand up for any of it. And it was so weird because he was an outsider walking in on it, and he just adopted us, and he just, when she would go into her episodes, he would just do nothing. Like, there was no protection of the children. There was no, so it's a weird thing because while I didn't have my father around, we did end up having a stepfather, but he didn't help. And then, he only was there for maybe like 5 years of my childhood, and then they divorced. And then subsequently, all the boyfriends my mom would have, they would all be the same type. These men who just did not have a backbone, who would buy her flowers and apologize when they did nothing wrong. And it was just this, I just don't know how she did it. It's really should be studied.
Well, and I think for narcissists, like, that is, and especially I would say for female narcissists that are focused on, like, collecting a body count or whatever it is, there is that, you see that histrionic, personality where they're using their sexuality in order to do things. And I know for my mom, she immigrated from the Philippines. My dad met her when he was a soldier fighting in Vietnam, and she had a hustle. Like, the community was trying to get over to the United States. And when my parents divorced, my mom used her sexuality in order to get, her boyfriends, and then subsequently, I think she's still with the guy, her husband that she's with now. And you talked about your dad, and then you talked about these men that were in and out of your mom's life and this spell. And I think that for men who have a mother wound, like, it sounds like your dad was like, okay, this is your mom. Okay, I'll deal with her. Okay, we had kids. Now let's try to keep her contained in this box, right? Like, I know that she might be a little bit cuckoo, but if I can keep her contained in this box and, keep the money under control, not like controlling, but saying, okay, if we're going to have a future, if our kids are going to have a future, we're going to have generational wealth, we have to, like, this has to be controlled.
Right.
Right. And so after your dad passed away, which I'm sorry that he did so early in your life, your mom was like, I need somebody that I can run over. I want to be able to do whatever. And so it's like they have a mark. There's a mark. And men with mother wounds, that happens to, my poor dad married my mom. She was a narcissist. Married my stepmom. She was a narcissist. They've gotten a divorce. I haven't met his new girlfriend. She might be a narcissist. She kind of sounds like it based on the way he describes her, but I don't know because I've never met her. Very similar to you with your first stepdad. I think that it is a hard being a parent now, and being a parent of 3 bonus kids and my daughter, who, subsequently she's only 3 years younger than you. So, like, it's hard. I know blending a family is hard. And my husband and I were very, very intentional about that because my daughter was so much older than his oldest daughter. There's like a 7-year age difference. We introduced him to my daughter first before I got introduced to his kids, who were all under 18, because we knew that dating is dating, and we wanted to wait until we knew that, this is it. This is forever, no live ammo, ride or die. And, within 3 months, we were talking about, okay, well, why don't we do an introduction in a couple months? And that's appropriate parenting.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's very healthy sounding. Yes.
Right. Oh, fuck your mom. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because when she met my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. So I think like he might not have had a mother wound, but he had a terminal illness. He was,
that makes sense.
He was weak, right? Like he was easy to control. And then with my stepdad, yes, he was like, he was a man child. Yeah. It is interesting.
And that's okay. Teach their own. And, unfortunately, there is a bunch of narcissistic mothers out there that know that this is the way that it is. And, I don't know what kind of trauma they've gone through, but I know this as someone who's gone through the trauma of being with a narcissistic mom, going through your trauma. I'm not that messed up. I'm breaking that cycle because I don't want that, like, for my daughter or, my grandchildren. That to me, that is a generational curse that I don't want to pass down. Like that's scary. And it sounds like, so you and I left home very early. You left home at 20 and you had one suitcase and you completely started over your life. What was that experience like for you emotionally? Like how did you get through that?
Yeah, so that experience was, I'd like to say that reflecting on that experience has been more emotional than the experience itself, which I think is something that I think a lot of people can relate to when you're going through something traumatic. It's like when you're going through it, you're just like, it's time to go. Like you're in survival mode. And then when you reflect, you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen anything from my childhood, from my old house. Like, so I left my home, which was being foreclosed on, my dogs. I never got to see my dogs ever again. That's the part that I think makes me want to cry the most. We had a nanny still living in the house, and I have tried to find her. I don't know even what happened to her. She must have been displaced. Like that breaks my heart. And I was living with a partner at the time. He was actually living at the house. My mother was not living at the house. We were actually paying the bills for the house because it was, again, things were slowly kind of, it's like if a pipe was leaking, like the pipe was starting to burst open, and it was time to get out. So, my boyfriend at the time, he had moved to Vancouver a week before I did. And I was not sure if I wanted to stay with him. It wasn't really actually a great relationship, and I had tried to end it. And at this moment, it was either I moved to California, I was living in Canada at the time, or I moved to be with him in Vancouver. And Vancouver was just easier, and it was close. And because I was in Banff at the time. And so, I packed a suitcase with as much as I could fit in my suitcase. And I said goodbye to my dogs. And I thought in my head at the time, or I guess in my heart at the time, maybe I'll be able to come back one day. Like maybe this is all just a bad dream. Like maybe I'll see my dogs again. But in my head, I think I knew, like, everything is falling apart. And so I left the house. I boarded a Greyhound bus in the middle of the night, like a Greyhound, a red-eye Greyhound. And I arrived in Vancouver, and my boyfriend at the time met me at the bus station. And I never have stepped foot in that house again. I never saw my dogs again. I never saw, the woman who lived in the house who had been my nanny for a while. And I remember my mom called me and she told me that the house was gone. Like the bank had taken it over. And my first question was, where are the dogs? And she said, the first thing in classic narcissistic mom style, I don't need you screaming at me right now, Gingy. I don't know. Like, just no answer about the dogs. Yeah. So that was, traumatic. And I, was very like, I just wanted to know where the dogs were because they meant so much.
Yeah.
Were, not allowed to ask questions, not allowed to know what happened, not allowed to be sad, not allowed to grieve, because all of that was not allowed. And then, my mom was very delusional, which is very common for narcissists too. And at this point in my life, I didn't even know the term narcissist. So I didn't know what's wrong with this woman. But she said, I'm coming back bigger than ever. She goes, Mitchell's, which was my dad's meatpacking company, which is where she got a lot of her money. She goes, Mitchell's pennies compared to the empire I'm building. She calls herself the White Oprah. I'm the White Oprah. She goes, I know. She goes, just you wait and see. It'll all be back sooner than later. You just wait and see. So it's like this weird, like trying to comfort me with like by telling me that she's so wonderful and amazing, that this is all temporary. So like, don't worry, it's all coming back. But then I also know like it's not like we're
right.
And so that was that experience. And I genuinely have never seen that house again. I haven't seen anything from my past since then, like material wise, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I did actually end up breaking up with my boyfriend because, as you mentioned earlier, with like patterns in dating, he was definitely not a narcissist. He was borderline. There was something very wrong with him.
He definitely had tendencies.
Yes, and so that, thank God, ended. But then it left me in a very precarious situation because I was penniless because my mom, she lost everything. So I couldn't even call her for $5. Like she she was living in one of our empty homes, which was in the process of being foreclosed on in the desert in Palm Springs. Right. So I was living in a closet, genuine closet. My friend let me live in her closet, and I was living next to a boiler, no windows, like a genuine boiler. So it's like, I went from this extremely lavish style to living in a closet next to a boiler. And that's, maybe 2 months after moving with the suitcase and the Greyhound bus from this house. And then, I don't know where my dogs are. And it was just extreme.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Dramatic.
It's a lot, like, I think that's I think for people who don't understand, like, when we talk about, there's a lot of talk about domestic violence when women leave abusive relationships. We don't talk about men leaving abusive relationships, whether it's a same-sex couple or a man leaving a abusive female. We don't talk about that or what it looks like. We don't really talk about what it looks like. We gloss over that usually, right? Yeah. We gloss over the fact, like I think about when I left, I had my daughter. My daughter's 31. Are turning 31 in a couple weeks. I had my daughter, and I was 18 when I had her, and I left home. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to go to college is what I knew I needed to do. I needed to get a degree. I needed to start working. And I was lucky enough to have a family friend, like their cousin, owned, I was like the property manager of duplexes in the area. And she lived in the property manager's duplex, but she had her extra room. And so in that room, I then like put up those dividers that put them up so that my daughter had her own room in there. and like her little toys and all the stuff, so that, of course she brought her toys out, but like she could, do all the things that she could as to make it as normal as possible. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Because for me, what normal was chaos.
Yes,
like
and
that chaos.
Yes, I
right?
so that. Yes.
Well, and that's the thing, like that, like you lighting up right there is you knowing exactly what I'm saying. And that is something that with narcissistic abuse, when they know, they know.
Yes,
And
when
that and that chaos, and we see it like as I'm continuing my healing like grief is a continual thing. And so I see myself like making myself extra busy so that chaos is there, so that it feels some kind of normal. Because like with my husband, everything's so relaxed.
Yeah.
Like nothing's urgent, right? And I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Yes.
Right. And so sometimes I've gotten much better. I'm sure if you talk to my husband, he would say that I'm much better than I was 11 years ago. Because what people don't understand is that chaos is there, that urgency is there from the narcissist, so that you don't have any time to think. And people don't make their best decisions in urgent situations. They just don't. Like even, we know that there's emergency situations, and sometimes, there's certain training that you can learn to practice so that in an emergency situation, if there's a fire or, there's an active shooter or whatever, that automatic comes in. But this chaos is different than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you think of fire science, you're like, okay, I'm going to be a firefighter. Fire science. If the wind is this way and there's a fire, I know it's going to happen this way, so I have to do this. Mm-hmm. There is nothing that I can predict certain things that a narcissist will do, but there's other things that you just can't, because it's just chaos constantly.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually recently, I don't know if you've seen this video I made, but I recently made a video because I started doing some story time videos, and people are like, this is out of order. And I'm like, because narcissists don't have order. It's like,
no,
you have to explain it in a linear thing, because it's like, if I tell you this part, it's not going to make sense, because while they were saying this is what was actually happening.
Yeah,
and
they were doing this in the background, right?
Exactly.
Well, and here's the other thing that's really interesting about CPTSD, and we'll talk a little bit about, you learning about it, and, knowing now that a lot of this, the things that you're experiencing is with CPTSD is there are large chunks of my childhood that I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And when something like comes up on, like maybe we're watching a show or movie, or something comes up, like someone says something, or there's a certain smell or whatever, I'll remember something that I've never remembered before. And that's really difficult for people to understand. It's because our brain is a muscle, and our brain is like amazing, and it blocks and pushes down these memories that are really too difficult for the human mind to process.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like you think about a brain, like if they scanned our brains, our two brains, we would look like combat veterans.
Yes.
Because that like it is a war experience. And I don't think that people, that is it, once we can start equating what we went through, and we're not being like over dramatizing it at all. It is literally for a child to go through that like chaos. That's what it does to you.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about like how it felt to be able to put the name CPTSD to what you were experiencing in your life as an adult, going through the healing.
Yeah. Also, just a quick add on to what you previously said. It's interesting too, because like in regards to our brains being similar to combat veterans, we're also developing. Our brains were developing.
Yes.
Through that. And so, I have done a lot of research, because as you said with yourself, I'm on the same exact journey as you, where I don't want to repeat this cycle. So I'm just trying to educate myself every which way I can. And what I find so interesting is that actually they've learned that we can change the neural pathways in our brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So amazing.
Yeah, you can retrain and rewire your brain. Like, so as a side, I got my degree in neuropsychology. So this stuff is like, I love this stuff and all these pathways. It's so interesting. And when you were saying that you want to be different than that, what I just had a guest on, she was fantastic. And I said, how is parenting now for you? Because my kids are, 31, 24, 17, and 14. So they're older. And she said, anytime I get overwhelmed or feel the need to respond to something that has to do with my child, and the thought, or I've done something with my kid, and I think my mom would have been really upset at how I responded to that. I know that I'm doing the right thing. Or if I'm about to respond and the response is, oh my gosh, my mom would be proud of that response, I take a step back.
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh,
I was like, I know, right? Like she talks about that all the time, because one of the things with survivors of this narcissistic abuse is there's like an overload that happens. Like I feel the overload at certain times, and it's not nobody's doing anything wrong. I just feel it. It's a lot for me. It's like when there's a lot of different conversations going on, and then it gets really loud, and then something loud on the TV happens. Like I feel it, but then I'm like, okay, this is just a moment. Like, let's talk it through.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you feel about like getting that understanding of what CPTSD is? And then how did therapy play a role in your continued recovery?
Yeah. So I was formally diagnosed with CPTSD in about 2019.
Okay.
So I had seen various therapists for, I'd say since 2014, I started going to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in time, I still had a very rudimentary understanding of my upbringing. I was still very much grouping myself with the, like, I don't want to say like normies, but like with the people who are like, oh, like, I'm probably just being dramatic. My childhood isn't that bad. Like,
that was your mom. That was your mom.
Exactly. So I was thinking like, oh, like, yeah, I need a little bit of therapy, but she is my mom, like all those things.
Yeah.
So I was still thinking like this is likely nothing too, I don't know. I was still talking to my mom, I guess is the best way to say it.
Right.
So once I broke up with my mom officially, that was, I guess in about 2014, that was the hardest breakup of my life, of course. Also the best thing I've ever done.
Yes.
So that's when I really started to seek intensive therapy, and not every therapist was the right fit for this journey, because not every therapist, I think, can understand it. And there are therapists who will be like, well, did you try talking to her? And it's insane to me now that I think about it. And then there's a lot of guilt that comes with that, because it's a therapist and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this therapist is telling me I should talk to my mom. Like, oh, and I told her all the things that happened and she's still telling me to try to talk to her. Anyways, all that aside, it wasn't until about 2019, I guess that's for listeners who maybe have a therapist who's telling them to still try to work it out. It's like, maybe that's not the right therapist. Yes. Right. Because your feelings are super valid. So I finally saw a therapist. I had been going through some personal things. I had been learning truths that I hadn't previously learned. I had reconnected with family members. There were things going on that I was like, I cannot reconcile this. This is nuts. And this therapist who specialized, I guess, in familial trauma and in things that other therapists, I guess, hadn't specialized in, was like, you have CPTSD. And she told me I should read The Body Keeps the Score. And she really helped me learn a lot about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And she really helped validate for me that this wasn't okay, and that what I went through wasn't normal, and that I couldn't speak to my mom, and that, because for a long time people would tell me, oh, but your mom loves you, she's your mom. And actually the most healing thing for me was to realize, like, my mom doesn't love me, she's incapable of love, because if I believe she loves me and then
Mhm.
I equate what she's done to me as her form of loving me, that's actually quite damaging and dangerous, because then that tells me that that's the type of love I deserve. And
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
not the love I deserve. And so that's been the journey for me. So once I finally got that diagnosis from a health professional, it really freed me, and it allowed me to um, have something wrong with me, because also I was never allowed to be sick when I was younger. My mom would
Mhm.
call me dramatic. I remember, once I broke two bones in my hand in a gymnastics practice, and it went untreated for 3 weeks, because my mom told me that, she had just gotten married, and she told me I was being dramatic, and she told me I was selfish, and she told me to leave her alone. And my aunt and uncle took me to the hospital, where they noticed I actually had two broken bones. And at that
Oh my
point,
gosh.
and so I was never allowed to have anything wrong with me. So getting this diagnosis was very freeing for me, because it was like, oh my gosh, I can finally deal with something that's going on in my life.
Right.
I can put like a word to it. And not that there's something wrong with me. And I know that might come
No,
wrong,
yeah.
but what I mean to say is, like,
No, I know.
like, it's okay that I'm struggling, I guess is what I'm trying to
Right.
say. And I'm allowed to
Well,
have struggles.
I mean, and that's the thing. I don't think that you're saying anything's wrong with you. I think it's just like anything where, like, I know, like, for example, I'm really, really introverted, which throws everyone off because I do the podcast and all these things. I will tell you that COVID was the best thing that happened for introverts, because it's not the same when you're on a Zoom as it is like if you were across the table from me. It would be different for me. It would be more difficult, just because I think that there's this, like, I am very aware that I'm not in your house, like, I'm really aware of that. And I know that if I'm going to go somewhere, that I need a little bit of a warm up. Like, so, for instance, my husband's family had, we threw an event. My sister-in-law graduated from her master's degree, and we were going to see a lot of family and, other people, other family friends. And so on the drive over there, I was like really talkative, and usually I'm not, but I have to warm up to get to that spot. People with CPTSD or anxiety disorder or any of those things, whatever it is, what the process is for you to be able to do certain things. And you just got to go through it a little different, right? It's like if somebody has a reading disability, they know, okay, if I have to do a book report, I probably have to start the book report, 2 weeks earlier than normal because I have to do X, Y, and Z. It is what I always say is not a life sentence. It's just a way for you to be creative to do things.
Taking a quick break from our podcast to let you know about today's sponsors.
Feeling overwhelmed by anxiety? Does it have you overthinking, second guessing yourself, or constantly on edge? Meet iCare, a 14-day experience designed to help you understand your anxiety patterns and practice simple, evidence-based tools that fit into real life. Each day includes a quick exercise, practical insights, and AI guided reflection. Start your free 3-day trial at icare.app to discover a different way to work with anxiety, helping you build greater calm and confidence day by day. If perimenopause has your muscles aching, your stress levels climbing, or your nervous system feeling like it's working overtime, check out the Happy Cannabis. Their THC-free, plant-powered CBD body oils, sugar scrubs, and goat milk soaps are designed to support everyday wellness and help you unwind naturally. Use code BMD20 to save 20% on your order and give your body a little extra love.
And now back to our episode.
Mm.
Right. And one of the things that's really important for people who have this complex trauma is that there is safety, or there's a safe spot, or there's a safe person that that you can always go to. My person is my husband. I always laugh. I tell him, if I could ride in your pocket and you could take me everywhere, I would do it. Like, it's not
Yeah.
his jam, but that I would do that. Like, he is the safe spot for me. And our home, he's had this home for 20 years. We've been together for 11. Like, this is the only space where I have ever felt any kind of safety, because that's just the way that it is. So for you, what does safety really look like for you now in your life?
I'd say, like, definitely same as you. Like, my husband is my safety, and he's so wonderful and loving, and him and I are, like, we love to be together, which I'm so grateful for, and we just really like each other, which I always tell people, like, we don't just love each other, like, we just, like, really
yeah.
It's amazing. And so, yeah, he is my family. In fact, he's been there with me. We've been together 13 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was there for me when I broke up with my mom. He met her. I'm so glad he did, even though I'm so sorry he did, because he understands.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds parallel to my husband too. Like, my husband's only met my mom once, and she made my grandfather's funeral, and not her biological dad, was my dad's dad, all about her. And my parents aren't married anymore. And my husband saw her, and he had heard a couple of my stories. He knew that I didn't talk to my mom. He knew that we were no contact. That was the last time I talked to her, which was in 2015. So it's about the same path. And so when I explained my mom, he's like, yep.
Yes.
Like, there's no question, right?
Yeah.
And where everybody else was like, oh, it must be you.
Yep. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm like, fuck you. No, it's not. I know that I'm not perfect, but I know I'm not crazy.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that is a really common thing for daughters, especially daughters of mothers with narcissistic personality, because the other thing that happens is there's like a lot of jealousy that happens between the mothers and daughters. There's like this whole hair thing. Like, they are like obsessed with messing with your hair or doing things to your hair. There's from my mom, like, my mom is very tiny. She's like a tiny little stick. She's 4'10". And that was not me. I'm like 4 inches taller than her. It is a very interesting thing that daughters of narcissistic mothers do to their daughter. Because it's not just enmeshment or being a fucking bitch or doing all those things. But then there's like, take the assault that women have on their looks, just society wise, and multiply it by 1 million. And that's what having a narcissistic mom is like.
It's so true. I mean, that's so funny what you said about the hair thing, because I've never actually really thought about that. But my mom started taking me for highlights when I was like 5.
See, my mom permed my hair. I look like a psychopath at 5. Like, because in the 80s, perms were big, but she got like that dumbass, like, tight perm. And
yes. Dude, that's my brother. He got perms too. And she dyed his hair blonde. And she told everyone it was natural.
See, that's the thing. And here's the thing that I appreciate is that we can laugh about it, because it's like, that is crazy shit that a person is doing to their child. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, hair is a really big thing. I think, for me, I cut my hair, and it's always surrounding like graduation. So my hair was very, very long, like past my butt. And my hair is actually that like now. And right before graduation from high school, my mom cut my hair like short, like a boy short, like short. And my graduation pictures, like after my graduation, I have short hair and it looks horrible. And she's like, oh, it looks so good. And then during graduation, when my hair was cut, people are like, oh, you cut your hair. Why'd you do that? My mom's all, it looks ugly, doesn't it? I was all,
you're like, you did this to me.
I was like, oh my God, it's so crazy.
Oh no.
I know, it's so crazy. One of the things that I think is really interesting is when artists like you, so you're an actress and you're a filmmaker, experience things like this. So we had Mark Vicente on a couple weeks ago, and he did not have narcissistic parents, but he was part of the Nexium cult that had a narcissistic leader. And so he's created a film, the Narcissist Playbook, which I'll put a link to because people can help donate to it. It's coming out in July. And I think that is a really interesting thing. And there's a oh my gosh moment. But you did a short film called The Ornament, and it explores how children instinctively protect a parent that's causing them harm.
Yes.
And so I think this is a really important thing. So tell me why this was an important story for you to tell.
Yeah. So The Ornament was a very important film for me to make. It started with me, actually, funny enough, with the name of your podcast, I watched Mommy Dearest.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this film is my childhood. That is my mom. Everything about it. And then I started Googling the film, and I saw how so many people were calling it campy and over the top and too much. And I thought to myself, like, it's not. It's not campy at all. It's not over the top. That is how these people are. And it really kind of blew me away how few people understood, or at least at that time, I guess in late 80s or early 80s, when I guess there was no internet, people didn't speak about this. It wasn't, it was very taboo. It still feels taboo sometimes, though now it's, I think, a little bit more accessible to hear these conversations. It does still feel taboo. And I thought, you know what? I want to take my experience. I want to do something brave, and I want to write about it. And I want to use my voice to show people and relate to other survivors and show that this is not a camp experience. This isn't a horror film. This is a lot of people's truth, and this is a lived experience. And how much more can I explain it than showing people what little kids go through? And, you know, my film explores a little girl, but there are little boys. You know, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
It's important to acknowledge that abusers can be male, they can be female, and that's something I also really wanted the film to illustrate, is that though this is a woman who speaks on female empowerment, who has, you know, the world at her feet, who is someone people look up to, she is an abusive human. And the person who is kind of unknowingly endorsing her is her daughter, and her daughter is the ornament. Her daughter is an ornament to her mother's life. She makes her mother look good. She speaks when she needs to speak, and she's silent when she needs to be silent. And she's been and I just wanted the film to show that dynamic. And though I've changed the names of the characters, and I used like the vehicle of the mom's character is Luna, the daughter's name is Tessa, to explore those themes, it is entirely based on true experiences that I lived. And I was just excited to write a film that I could take around. We've gone to film festivals. We've won a lot of great awards. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say they resonate. And it's so exciting for me to be able to talk about the film. And if people were to say, oh, it's camp, or oh, that doesn't happen, I could say, it's based on my life.
It's my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I know Christina Crawford, who Mommy Dearest is about, could say that. But again, Joan Crawford was a movie star, and I'm sure she had to battle people. And I just really wanted to make a film where I, as a human being, could stand behind it. I could tell people this happens. I could advocate for survivors. I could speak on these dynamics. And that's why I created the film. And because I'm a filmmaker, an actor, a writer, director, I was like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it. And the film turned out wonderful. I had a great team. I love everything about it, from the acting to the cinematography. And it did speak to so many people, and I'm very proud of it. And yeah, I'd love if people listening want to watch.
Yeah. Well, and we'll make sure that we put a link to it, because I think that for me, in my experience, it's really important, whether it's art or a book. You know, I have a Facebook group that I help admin with two other women, and it's got like almost 7,500 women in it that are have said that they have covert narcissistic mothers. And we do a book club every Wednesday. And the book that we're reading is Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mother Died. Yes. And so I think that those things help people put to words what they might not be able to. Watching a film and like pausing it and saying, holy shit, this is what happened to me. That is really important, because even maybe, let's say you haven't discovered that your mom's a narcissist yet. By the way, that's fine if you haven't. Like, we're not judging you. But if this film, a book, this podcast gets people to say, oh my God, my mom does that. And they're talking about narcissists. And you start this healing process, and we have accomplished what we want to accomplish. Like, it is, yes, some of it is for the healing portion of it. Like, this definitely, since we started the podcast in January of this year, it has been healing for me. I thought I was healed, but it has been definitely healing for me. And that is, so it's not just for me to heal, it's also for other people to heal. And intentionality of that, like your films, it's very intentional. For me this month, so we're recording this in June. So I have been really focused on men's mental health, because men don't talk about being abused, right? It's very rare. Like, maybe in a partnership, you might get your spouse or your significant other or your boyfriend and girlfriend or your boyfriend to say, oh my God, my mom yelled at me a lot, or oh my God, my mom was psycho, or oh, that my ex-girlfriend used to cut up my clothes, right? By the way, that's crazy. That, like, if that's something that is a continuing theme, that is not appropriate. And so it is important that everyone be able to vocalize whatever it is. And if we can help find the words, if it's like you pause your movie and say that, rewind that, that's what happened to me, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Because that's, yes, exactly. Definitely hoping I reach survivors or people who don't know maybe that they're in that environment and watch it and relate is very important and a piece of it.
Well, and that's the thing, because a narcissist does two things. The reason why it is so atrocious and insidious in what they do is they have the long game, right? So they're building up this stuff in order for them to do crazy ass shit to you. And so that when you go and say the crazy ass shit that they've done, that they've actually done to you, people don't believe you. And in fact, I actually have this book by Sarah Edmond, because she's going to be on the podcast too. She was in the Nexium cult too. And the cult leader, a narcissist, branded her.
Yeah.
Like, and so when we talk, right? So when we talk about it, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Why would anybody let that happen? And it was a long process. Like, the one thing that I will give Keith Raniere is he was persistent and played the long game. He is a piece of shit and deserves every freaking second that he's in jail because of the atrocious stuff he did.
Yes.
And he played, I mean, who, like, we as continually healed women are like, that's crazy. And we had crazy ass moms, right? Exactly. And so that's the game that narcissists play. They abuse the crap out of you so that they whittle down your self-confidence. They say things like, if there might be a partner that you have that says like atrocious or crazy things, or says, oh, we should do this or whatever it is. And then when you go and tell the story to someone, no one believes you.
Exactly. Because and then when you do tell, they've already beat you to it with their own smear campaign.
Yeah.
So by the time people hear your side, they've already heard theirs.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's funny too, is that with narcissists, so this was a conversation I used to have with my brother a lot. Also, when you spoke of safe spaces, I'm so grateful to my siblings as well. I have to say, having them, is so nice. But I was having a conversation with my brother because I used to get so frustrated because of the lack of belief, because when people haven't experienced a narcissist, they can't understand it. They just can't. Especially, like, you can hear it on TV or it be sensationalized, but when it's a friend of yours or somebody you know, a neighbor, you're like, it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to people. And I used to like get so frustrated and I get so upset. And my brother is such an awesome guy. I adore him. And he said to me, he goes, well, the reason people aren't understanding you is you're telling people that you know somebody with thumbs for ears. And I'm like, what do you mean?
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
And he's like, well, have you ever seen someone with thumbs for ears? And I'm like, no. And he's like, so what if I told you I knew someone with thumbs for ears? Would you believe me? And I'm like, I guess not. So
That's super. That's a really good explanation. That's so funny.
yeah.
You know, the other thing, I had a therapist on, and she was saying, if because she was a therapist that specializes in narcissistic abuse and narcissistic mothers and their daughters' recovery. She was saying, if any of the people who told the story that they've told me and said, "Oh, my spouse, significant other did this," to their friend would say, "You got to freaking leave him." But when it's your mom, it's a different story, right?
Yes.
And it's funny that you said your mom, the white Oprah. I laugh because what was your mom thinking? Like so many things wrong with what you said. But Oprah and Mel Robbins did this whole disservice to our community because they were saying that kids who don't talk to their parents are spoiled brats. And I was like, fuck you.
When did they say
Don't
that?
know. This was during Christmas time because it was during the holidays. So during Thanksgiving, the holidays, both of them said,
That upsets me.
right. And because they had a bunch of kids who were there, adult kids that were no contact. And I was pretty upset when they said that. And what I've seen, and side story to Mel Robbins, this is not going to fix it. You've shown us your cards. Is Mel Robbins has had people on who wrote The Mother Wound and various other things. You can't fix the damage that you've already done. The best thing, and this is the thing that I say often about things like this. I was just listening to the podcast that's being released this Friday. It's about family court and men in family court and women who are narcissists who do things to men. There is never a wrong time to say, "I'm sorry, you were right," and to stop whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. Most narcissists won't because they have no empathy. But let's say you just have the tendencies and you're just being an asshole. You can stop and say, "Oh my God, I'm being an asshole. I'm sorry. Let me take a step back and work on myself." You can do that. That to me is a really important thing. And if you can do that, you're probably not a narcissist. Just so everybody knows, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that you and your husband did was you took the pain that you had and you created a podcast, The New Players. Yes. So tell me a little bit about this podcast and how you balance being creative and an advocate at the same time.
Yeah, so my husband and I are both in the film industry. We're both actors. Mm-hmm. My husband was on Riverdale for 5 seasons, and
cool. Okay.
Yeah, he's done a lot of projects since, but I'd say that would probably be the one most people would recognize him from.
Yeah.
And we both just love to share. I mean, since writing and directing The Ornament, I've had a lot of people also ask me about writing and how to use your voice to tell your own story. And so Jordan and I decided that we would, why don't we create an acting community online and kind of get some creatives that we can talk to and explore the medium of acting and writing and directing. And so we decided to create our podcast, My Booking Story. That podcast is mostly around discussing kind of the background of the craft and the stories behind the bookings, because usually when it comes to acting, you just hear about the booking.
Yeah.
Or they booked that film and it's amazing and lights, camera, action, but you don't really hear about the audition or how many times they got callbacks or how close they were to not booking it or the years of no jobs between that one booking. So for that, it's kind of a fun little creative endeavor, and we also have run a couple courses and online.
Fun.
That's just a fun little creative endeavor we do together.
That's so much fun. I don't get women who don't want to be with their husband all the time.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. My husband's my best friend. We follow each other. I follow him. I probably drive him nuts, but there's that constant, and I love working with him. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you get to work with your husband. So I have a little speed round for you and then a closing question. So I call my speed round chisme and trauma. So chisme is gossip in Spanish. It's juicy chisme, right? And so I call it chisme and trauma. And so these are just really quick question or quick answers. So tell me something people would be surprised to learn about you.
Surprised to learn about me. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go quick because you're like, it's a speed
No,
round.
you're good. You're good.
Okay. If I've already said on my social media, can I say that people would be surprised to learn about me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a statue in Saskatoon.
Really? You do? That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me, well, we're going to have a whole nother podcast just on the statue. So
Okay.
tell me, what is your comfort TV show or movie?
Ooh, definitely The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah.
Oh, I love that. What brings you joy these days?
My dog Nola.
Oh, what kind of dog is it?
She's a Cavapoo.
Oh, how cute. So
Yeah.
adorable. What book has had the biggest impact on your healing journey?
Book?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm gonna say North of Normal by Sia Sunrise Person.
Okay, we'll make sure to put that in the notes.
Yeah.
What is a belief that you've had to unlearn?
Ooh, that oh my gosh, there's so many that I've had to unlearn. That just because someone's your parent, you have to accept their abuse.
That's the mic drop right there. I love it. What makes you feel the most grounded?
I'd say a scented candle and a cup of tea.
I love that. And then the last one for the round is, what's a hill that you'll die on?
All's well that ends well.
I love that. That is so profound. I love that. So here is my closing question for you. So for listeners who are just beginning to question whether about what happened in their childhood and if it was neglect, abuse, or trauma, what would you want them to have heard today?
If there's a listener that's questioning if it was abuse, neglect, or trauma, I'd want them to. What would I want them to hear now or have heard throughout?
Yeah, hear now.
I would want them to hear that if you're questioning if it was any of those things, that maybe the or is an and, number one. It could be all. And that if you're questioning it, there's a reason you're wondering. And that you're allowed to validate yourself. And that you deserve to be heard. You deserve for your experiences to matter, that you're not dramatic, that you're not over exaggerating, and that it's time you listen to yourself and stop questioning whether these things happened or didn't happen.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being on today. And we'll definitely have you on again because I want to hear there's so many more questions I have. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. What a great podcast. I love what you're doing because
thank you.
I just think that this topic is so important, especially I love what an emphasis you put on discussing narcissistic parents and just calling them narcissists. Let's just not dance around the topic. Important because yes, this is a very real thing, and it's time that this stops being a taboo topic. And
yes,
yeah, it's time because this is more common than so many people.
Absolutely. You and I are on the same page in regard.
I want you to write one paragraph about your family's holiday traditions to share with the class when you come back.
I've been named Female Entrepreneur of the Year again.
I have to tell the class what we do for Christmas, but I don't know what to write.
What are you talking about? Every year, we gather as a family for Christmas. We rip open our gifts from Santa as we drink hot chocolate. We wear matching PJs and curl up by the fire, play games and sing carols all day long until we finally dig in to a feast of honey ham, potatoes, and pie.
Are we really going to do that this year?
just like we do every year.
For joining us today, JinJara. As we chatted today, one of the hardest parts of healing is recognizing the things that we laughed off, minimized, or were told were normal were often experiences that deeply impacted us. Childhood trauma doesn't disappear just because we survived it. Naming what happened isn't about blaming or staying stuck in the past. It's about finally telling ourselves the truth so that healing can begin. Thank you again, JinJara, for your honesty, your vulnerability, and for reminding us that we're allowed to question our stories, grieve what we lost, and create something different for ourselves. If today's conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, share this episode, and leave a comment. Thank you for listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone who could use a little hope today. To learn more about coaching, upcoming events, and our growing community, visit the links in the show notes. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep healing, and remember, you are worthy of love, peace, and a life beyond survival.
Your skin is a part of your nervous system, and taking care of it is essential to overall balance. Our products are specifically formulated to nourish your skin and bring it closer to homeostasis with every use. Start feeling better in your body today with the Happy Cannabis.